So next up, we have Sanity engineers coming to the stage. We have Rico and we have Bjørge, which are, they're both front-end engineers, but I will bring them on stage to introduce themselves. Hi, Bjørge. Hi, Rico.
Hello.
So
I think I prefer the term browser wrangler.
okay.
No,
It's official. That's what was your official title. Are you both front end? Is it officially front end engineers?
I would say so, yeah.
Perfect.
I don't know anything about infrastructure, so I'll continue.
So where are you both joining from?
I'm joining from the Sanity headquarters in Oslo.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, and I work for Sanity remotely. I am joining from the greater Detroit area. And I'm also wearing the Sanity hood.
The hoodie. There it is.
It's very comfortable.
It's so comfortable. I love it. So I hear, are going to get an exclusive behind the scenes from these two about some stuff that's been happening behind the scenes with conditional fields and some demos and examples, I hear. We'll see. So with introduction of hidden callback on object fields, Sanity can finally say that conditional fields is supported. So we're excited to see it in action. And remember, everyone, if you have questions, stick them in the chat and we'll get those answered in the Q&A that follows immediately after their talk. This is our final talk for the day. So the Q&A will happen and then we'll have some final announcements and thoughts afterward. But yeah, without further ado, I'm going to share your screen and I will leave. Have fun.
Thanks, Kat. So share my screen here. There it is, or the Inception screen. Yeah, so conditions may apply. So today we launched conditional fields. It's I think 3 hours ago. It's out. It's available through Sanity upgrade. The version is 2.17. So yeah, I'm a front-end engineer in Sanity. I'm working mostly in the studio code base. So if you ever encountered a bug in the studio, it's very likely that I am to blame for that. But I can all assure you that I also spend a significant amount of my time also fixing bugs and trying to prevent bugs from happening in the first place. So conditional fields. What are conditional fields? It's a simple way to show or hide a field based on other values. It's in the schema, like it's an attribute on the schema field. So and it's a continuation of the already existing hidden property. Up until now we had hidden being a Boolean, but now we extended that to be also a callback function. So yeah, and it's important to know that it's a purely visual thing. It happens only in the view layer. It doesn't affect the data stored in any way. So that's I'll come back to that a bit later. So the callback for the hidden property, it will receive some context. And the context is an object that has a document key, it has a parent key, it has a user key, and also a value key. So this context provides you with the means to do a bunch of cool stuff to show or hide a field. It can be based on you can create toggles, you can make drop downs, you can have fields that only appears initially, for example, but maybe even cooler. You can show or hide fields based on the role of the current user. So here's an example of a toggle. It's a Boolean field, and depending on whether it's toggled or not, you'll see some other fields appearing in the scheme in the form. So yeah, example of a dropdown. So here you have you can select from a set of strings. Depending on what's selected here, you can show another show or hide keys that's dependent on the value that's selected in the dropdown. So, for example, if the foo option is selected, this foo options object will be shown. If it's not, then this one will be hidden. So yeah, here's another example, role-based visual. So this is with deliberate term again, because it's only about the visual. It's not about data. So in this case, you have a field that's only visible if the current user has an administrator as one of its roles. So since the release introducing customer roles in the studio, then you have an property on the current user object, which is an array of role objects. So in this case, we show the field if there is one role among the many possible roles a user can have that matches administrator. So also, again, worth to note that this isn't really about data or security. It's about the visual, like the form. So even if it's hidden, it's still possible to write this field through other like crafting a request or something like that. Yeah. Another example, a one-time field. So in this case, it's if you combine this with, for example, the document actions API, you can create a slug field that's only visible until the document is published for the first time. So that's a very cool example of how this ties in with other Studio APIs, I think. Yeah, so there's a number of gotchas. These are useful to know, just be aware of. Again, it's a purely presentational visual thing. It doesn't affect the data. So if you're building a front end, always make sure to you can't only check for if the value is present. You also need to consider whether the condition is met if you're branching off and showing a different use. Validation is still in effect. So that means that even if there's a hidden field in the form, the validation is being run for that field. So you might want to be careful to not make a validation rule that happens for a hidden field. It's possible to write the validation rule in a way that it can actually take into account the same kind of condition that you use for the hidden. So it's good to be aware that it might be easy to get in a situation where you have a validation error, but the user that's logged in isn't able to fix that error by editing the field because the field is hidden. So that's something to be aware of. Always handle undefined. So the context that your callback is given receives the document and the parent object. So the parent object may be undefined because this condition is run before the parent object has any value as well. So always you make sure you use the question mark. What is it called again? The question mark dot
optional chaining.
Optional chaining. Thanks.
Yeah.
So yeah, another thing to be aware of is that this happens in the view in the render loop. So make sure to do as cheap computation as possible. If you do a lot of like data wrangling or stuff in it in the callback function, you might get a performance hit from that. So try to make the test as simple as possible. Yeah, and I'll give the word to Rico for the rest.
Hello. So I have to explain why there is no async. I'm currently the bad guy here. Well, that's okay. I joke, but I think it's actually very important to be transparent about these type of things. That way, we can work together to bring certain upgrades to our API and work together there. So it's also kind of one of Sanity's values is transparency, which I value a lot. Yeah, so I guess I can start off by saying like I'm pretty honored to join the team. Like I've been part of the community. Some of you may be familiar with me, some of you may not. But I've been fortunate enough to be asked to join the team, and it's been an incredible honor. Just like the different people I get to work with, and being a partner in crime with Bjørge, it's been great, truly. There's a lot of impressive stuff in there, and it's always fun. There's a whole bunch of these very interesting problems. One of which I will tell you and describe right now. So async for this API is surprisingly hard. The first thing that's kind of challenging about it is how this API is tied with the layout and tied with render. So we want the ability to constantly enforce the consistency of your hidden callbacks to the layout. We don't want to show any sort of loading spinners while doing that, and we definitely don't want to show fields that aren't supposed to be shown while data is fetching or loading. So if we kind of naively implemented async, we could run into a lot of those different problems. And that's not what we want to do. We want to provide very good editor experiences and very snappy things when we can. Yeah, so the next issue we've kind of run into with async is just the pure amount of times the hidden callback function is run. It's dependent on document, and by that definition, every keystroke will cause this callback to run. So that's kind of why we said make it fast in the previous one. If we kind of allowed async with the dependence of the document, we'd have to think a lot about like debouncing, cancellation, and even like push reactivity type things. So if you had like another reference, for example, you'd want that reference when that document got changed to push, to revalidate, to fire validation, or sorry, not validation, to fire your hidden callback one more time. And those just kind of create a lot of different challenges. So, and I guess lastly, is optimizability. One thing that's kind of nice with synchronous APIs is there's like a nice assumption of purity and time. So I think like the React team in general has kind of experienced this when they try to do concurrent mode. There's just like a whole bunch of problems that open up for it. So yeah, that is one of the fun problems I deal with. But it's been really fun. There's a lot of like different things I learned, and it's been great. But we can kind of work together and figure out something. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that's kind of what this next little portion is we need you. So conditional fields has definitely been this long-awaited feature, and I think the reason for why that is because we really tried to nail down all of these difficult problems without really realizing that we don't have to right at the moment. Like we can ship incrementally, we can release faster and deliver value, like 80% of and 90% of the things you would want right now, right? So if you have any sort of feature requests, don't or any feedback on anything, not even async, don't hesitate to share or reach out. Like we said, we have a community Slack that is. We try to be as welcoming as possible. So don't hesitate to call us out for any type of things that you need to get your job done. And we have an ideas and feedback channel in there specifically if you want to leave more feedback there. And there's one, I preemptively created this issue for collecting async use cases. So I think once we learn a little bit more about how people want async, then we can, or what people want from async, we can provide similar type of APIs that could solve or do the same sort of job without complicating performance, without complicating those different things. So yeah, and lastly, I have some code examples. I just put this on my own personal repo, but I am planning on moving that to the community, more just because I'm pushed for time. But that's kind of all we got. If you have any questions, I think now is the time.
I can also say thank you to everyone that's been helpful and trying out the beta for this and giving feedback. It's been very, very useful. So thanks, everyone.
Right on. Thank you so much for that demonstration of conditional fields. I don't know if you both were reading the chat, but some of the comments in the chat, it's very elegant. Also, Jason Barone in the chat upgraded to 2.17 a half hour ago and simplified numerous content types with conditional fields in just a few minutes. So it's already being used. It's already out there. There was a question. And if you have questions, stick them in the chat, and we'll have Bjørge and Rico answer those. But there was a question with conditional fields, and this is from Brett Robbins. With conditional fields, could you create a hierarchical select where the initial selected value will update what's going to be selectable in the second/hidden select?
I need to hear that one more time. Sorry.
Yeah. So with conditional fields, could you create a hierarchical select where the initial selected value will update what's going to be selectable in the second/hidden select?
Yeah, you definitely can, because the values and how they work out. We don't really give any restriction on what logic can be inside that hidden parameter. So if you wanted to create those different hierarchical structures, you sure can. And we would love to see those use cases too. Like there's one thing just like creating these APIs, but like having the imagination to see what you can do with it, that's a whole nother thing. So, that's kind of why we need to open up that issue too for async use cases, just because we don't know and we need to collect that feedback.
So far, what has been your favorite use case for conditional fields? Do you each have one?
I have a very simple go-to one.
Okay.
And it's like really simple, but it's one of those things that I feel like will just elevate your editor experience just like a little bit. And that's like a link field. So if you're using portable text, you'll typically have, at least in the sites that I've built, there's always like, you have an internal type of link, which is like a page or reference to your document, or maybe it's an external link to like Google or something like that. So just adding a conditional field to say like, okay, first pick your link type, internal, external, and then show like either a URL or the reference picker. It's kind of I don't know, it's very nice. Surprising how nice that is.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing about this is to be able to create like subforms, basically, that you don't have to show everything at the same time. But you can have like the options object, but the options only apply for a certain type. So yeah, I think those kind of use cases is very common. It's a thing I've been like wanting for myself for a long time. So yeah.
Right on. And I hear there are 2 GitHub issues that need to be closed. Do you want to do it on screen, Rico? Do you want to close those?
Yeah, let's try it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I also have a giant, related to the Jot stuff, I have like a giant thing of notes open. So let me close that real quick.
We won't look.
All right. All right.
Perfect. I see it. Okay,
So we have this.
Inception.
We have a few, I think. Yeah.
Want to zoom in just a little bit?
Yeah, like.
Perfect.
A link to the release. Let me grab that real quick. Very important. It's very convenient. If you can remember to do it. This is now available in version 2.17.0. And also spelling correctly would be nice as well. It feels so good to hit this one button.
For sure.
But yeah, I need to add more emojis.
Yes.
Sorry, there we go. Okay. That's one.
There's one.
And we have another similar one that's been open for a while. One more time. We did it. I need some confetti.
Closing GitHub issues live.
Yeah, I love it.
Amazing. Well, thank you everyone for hanging out, and thank you Bjørge and Rico for demonstrating conditional fields. I'm very excited to see how you all use it in your studios moving forward. And if you'd like to share, the hashtag I made this channel or the exchange are awesome places to share how you're using it. Thank you Bjørge and Rico, and yeah, we'll see you around.